Hey!
Good evening and welcome. Going to call to order the regular meeting of the Nevada City Council. Today is Wednesday, August 28th, 2024, and it is 6:30 p.m. Councilmember Fernandez, would you please read the Nisenan tribal recognition?
I shall for the second meeting in a row. We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria's Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as their campaign to restore federal recognition and tribal homelands.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I think Councilmember Fleming, if you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, because I don't believe I asked you last time, and I wouldn't want to accidentally ask you twice in a row.
I don't mind. I would love to do that, though. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So,
I know, just a...
So if we could, roll call. City attorney's joining us via Zoom. We hope you're feeling better, Dean.
Good evening, council. Thank you.
Yep. And
Miss you.
So Madam Deputy City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cece.
Here.
Councilmember Fleming.
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Klein.
Here.
And Mayor Peterson.
Here.
All present.
All right. Adoption of the agenda. It is now time for any agenda modifications. Would you like to make any changes, pull consent items, or do we have any recusals to announce? Okay, I'm looking for a motion and a second to adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
I second that.
Have a motion by Councilmember Fernandez and a second by Councilmember Fleming. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. We have no presentations tonight, so we will move straight to public comment. Government Code Section 54954.3 provides that any member of the public may address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on the consent calendar and each agenda item as it is heard. So we'll open it up to public comment. 3 minutes. Everybody spoke. We have plenty of time. Please.
My name is Jeffrey Gottesman from the Peace and Justice Center of Nevada County and Jewish Voice for Peace, and I'm a Nevada City resident. I'm playing hooky tonight because I felt like I needed to say hi and remind you that we still are waiting for a resolution for a ceasefire and for an arms embargo. I just came back from 5 weeks in Holocaust country. I visited Anne Frank's house, the Nuremberg rally grounds, and the concentration camp at Mauthausen. And the whole time, I tried not to be too obsessed about it, but being Jewish and being in that part of the world is pretty impactful. And the bottom line for me was, how did so many people go along with it? And how much of it was fear, how much of it was patriotism, their own victimization. And then I come back, and what's going on now is horrendous. I don't know if any of you caught Democracy Now! Yesterday about the doctors and nurses who were hung by their arms from the ceiling while they were tortured with electrodes, and about the man who was sodomized with electrodes, and huge mobs turned out to see that he was released and not charged with a crime. It's just it just keeps going, and we need to do something about it. And the reason that I'm here talking to you about it is because our federal government has become totally dysfunctional on this issue. They're good at infrastructure and potholes, but they can't seem to find their moral compass. And the reason is, was really elucidated for us by the two by the congressional primaries with Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, where AIPAC spent $25 million taking them out. They were two of the most important voices for a ceasefire. And the rest of Congress and the federal government is terrified to talk about the issue. Ergo, at the convention, nobody was allowed to speak about it. And so that's why we're here, because only by going to local government can we start to get the ball rolling for some justice for the Palestinian people. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Hey guys, just wanted to come tonight and clarify a little bit, kind of some feelings about last week, or last 2 weeks ago. None of the people who come here regularly to speak and give public comment believe that the Nevada City Council can change the world. You know, we are not stupid, we are not naive, and we are not starry-eyed optimists. We are caring, dedicated, passionate realists. We can be cynical with the best of them. But there's a huge difference between being cynical about our ability to change the world and the horrors in it, and being so cynical that you're creating more harm because you see creating harm as inevitable. It's the lie of the tragedy of the commons. It's an old thing. If we don't do the bad thing, then someone else is going to come do the bad thing, and we'll do the bad thing better than they will, and so on and so forth, and the bad thing keeps happening. No one expects you guys to perform miracles. None of us do. All I'm asking is for intellectual honesty. That's it. If you're happy with the status quo, fine. If you're not happy, then make every effort you can to change it. You know, if you want some minor adjustments to the status quo, but it's okay, then I'll drop it. Here's some examples. I'm not okay with the atrocities and crimes against humanity that my government commits or enables, or the crimes and atrocities that my government commits are acceptable for the price of my feeling of security. A or B, pick one. The immiseration of the poor is acceptable for the cost of my relative comfort, or it is not. There's just too much doublespeak in this country, and I'm tired of it. Small actions like passing a ceasefire resolution, making a really high vacancy tax on people's second homes, restoring the commons so public space is actually for public use. A couple of small ways you can convince people that you are actually interested in changing the status quo, actually interested in making real change. Because the wealthy landowners, wealthy business owners in this town are so overrepresented. You know, you guys need to really prioritize representing, as Lou said, the least of us. I prefer maybe those of us with the least, but like really represent the people at the bottom. Everyone else is doing just fine. And we are all making sacrifices. I know you're making sacrifices. We're all making a lot of sacrifices. But, you know, it just, believe in the change, please. Believe in that it's possible. Thanks.
Thank you.
One hasn't been paying attention the last 4 years.
Hello again.
Hello,
My
Liz.
name is Liz, and I'm still a Nevada County resident. I did not prepare anything to say tonight because I rarely get to look at you guys when I speak. Hopefully I will not cry, no promises. So I'm here obviously asking for a ceasefire resolution to be put on the agenda. I think that a ceasefire resolution is important. I know that many don't agree with me and they don't think it's a local issue, but for me, it is a humanitarian issue. I feel that everyone who has a voice should be using it, and you guys have an elevated voice. And many of your constituents don't want our bombs dropped on babies anymore. 17,000 children in Gaza have been killed, and that's just the ones accounted for. There's thousands underneath the rubble. There are even more thousands that have died as an indirect death. I talked about that about a month ago. Indirect deaths are those that are not, like bombs didn't fall on them, they weren't shot in the head. These are infections that could have been treated, diseases that could have been treated, but weren't able to be, or starvation, because aid was not allowed through. So 17,000. I just wanted to point out that Grass Valley's population is 13,930. Nevada City's population is 3,112. Combined, that is 17,042. They have killed, essentially, every single person in this county, except that they're all children. They have killed the same amount of people in this county, but all children, in less than a year, and are still calling it self-defense. Why do I think that we should call for a ceasefire? I think that we should be calling for a ceasefire because, like I said, every voice matters. I know that we're a small city, we're a small town, and maybe that doesn't seem like it would make a very big impact. But I believe in the pebble in the lake. I believe that the ripples that we create touch other cities and other areas. And there are many small towns and cities that have not pushed for a ceasefire because they think they're small too. And what happens if we're able to pass a ceasefire? And they look at us and they say, oh, hey, maybe we can do that. And what happens when other bigger cities see that small towns are passing ceasefires and they say, why aren't we doing that? We don't know the impact that will have. And maybe it'll do nothing. Maybe all that you'll do is elevate some voices and speak out against a genocide. It wouldn't be so bad.
Thank you, Liz. Okay.
I thought that was brand new.
Did you put your tie on just for us?
You look good.
I haven't worn it for quite a while, and I just got it today, and I put it on the first time perfectly. I was pretty impressed.
Well
It's
done,
been a
well
while
Good.
Since
look
I was
good.
in the professional market, which I spent a lot of time. My name is Brent Emil Williams, the second, and I'm a minister here in Nevada City. And for the last 15 years, along with other people like Janice and others, I've been an advocate for the homeless here. And I know I don't have much time, so Janice O'Brien was great. She's a nun, you probably know her, and she had a dream. And she has been an inspiration, a hope, a blessing, and to most of me and my friends, a really true friend. And her dream was to have a property here for us to share and work. And we worked at this for years, and it never fruitioned. She's probably at home watching. I wouldn't be surprised. I was wishing she was here. I have a lot of things to tell you. You and the citizens of the city. I know most of the people here. I mean, I always thought this place was wonderful as far as the homeless goes. I aligned myself with Janice and worked for years because I had the same dream she had, you know. And I've once met a guy outside Crazy Horse, and we were talking about the homeless, and he said to me and my wife had based our decision on whether we'd move here and start our family here and work as opposed to other places, that really nice places you've been looking at. And they made their decision on how the people had treated the guy that was there, right there, and how he interacted with them, you know, and how great it was. And of course, I know who he's talking about. He's still one of our greatest well-loved citizens today. He's outside. And I found out this week, or actually 8 weeks ago, June 27th around, I believe, very dramatic things happened to me. And it was illegal, and it was part of something that I had been finding out about, and it was actually, and nobody knows about it. Nobody knows that it happened. I've talked to lots of people and none of them know. And I'm willing to bet that even the council and you yourselves don't have no idea what I'm talking about. But we caught the war because we've been eliminated. We've been gone. And there was, but I found out more than that. And it's hard to explain all this, so I'm gonna do the best I can. Is that my time up?
That's your time up.
Okay, well, I can't explain it right now, but
Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you putting on your tie. You look good.
okay.
Brett, we can talk to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're happy to carry on the
Yeah, we'll
conversation.
certainly talk to you afterwards.
I look forward to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments for items not on the agenda? All right, thank you. We will move to consent items. Let's see. So we're now looking at the consent agenda and looking for I'm looking for public comment on the consent agenda.
I don't know what that is.
It's part of our agenda that takes up some items.
So over here on the left wall, you can look at a copy of our agenda, and you can look at the consent agenda as well.
So seeing no comments, I will be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion by Councilmember Cece and a second by Councilmember Fernandez. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion moves. All right, we are now going to reopen the public hearing, hold the first reading, waive reading of ordinance in entirety, read by title only, and schedule for a second reading adoption September 11th, 2024. So it's a public hearing in consideration of ordinance 2024-04, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, State of California, amending Chapter 8.04 of the City of Nevada City Municipal Code relating to nuisances. We'll open this up for public comment.
I'm not sure about all the rules, so I think I get to comment on the sections that I don't agree with.
Yes,
Is that
absolutely.
correct? Great. All right. So I'm Mary Peterson. I live in town down the street from you,
I know it is.
Mayor Peterson, on Park Avenue. And it just came to my attention about the changes to the nuisance part of the municipal code. And specifically, I am not in support of number 7 about the clotheslines, number 9 about the playground equipment, number 10 about the furniture, and 24 about the RV and trailers, et cetera. I've lived in the city for 10 years, in the county for 22, have visited my husband and his family here for the last 37 years. I have never seen any of those pieces as issues in the city. I still don't today see those as issues. When I drove home today from work, I went past a house that I know hangs an outdoor clothesline without a fence to see, is this bad? Is there a problem? And I looked and I'm like, yeah, no. I also get that I don't understand everything about why this has been put on there. I understand there's a fence component. You can have a clothesline if you have a fence, or you could have play structures if you have a fence. So I'm thinking, is there a safety issue? What is this? I still don't agree with it. And I'm dismayed that the city is considering all of this. It doesn't feel like Nevada City. It feels like a gated community. It feels like some kind of a let's have more rules. I know that's not why you do it. You all work hard. I trust you immensely in your city jobs, your job as a city council member doing what you do. However, my husband and I just reeled when we read the article in the Union, when we opened up and went to the agenda for today and looked at the municipal code of, oh no, what is happening? So there's my statement. I could be more articulate. I've written something that's been sent to all of you that you'll get in your packets tomorrow because I was a little late because of work. So I really hope you don't vote on this in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whenever the next meeting is, and you're going to get to take a vote. I'll probably be back. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks, Mary.
Neighbor, thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, I agree with Mary, just seems unnecessary. I don't, the Disneyfication of this town has been creeping and just, you know, on the same comment of, you know, the commons, you know, not only do we not have access to our public space the way we are intended, but now we don't have access to our private space as well. You should see my yard. I use it. It's full of wood. It's, you know, it's got stuff in it because it's being used. And if a neighbor wanted to come over and ask me to change that, maybe we could have a conversation instead of making a rule about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any,
We're on nuisance
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yep.
You'll have to excuse me, I'm new at this, but I had noticed that you didn't go through the reading, so I really don't understand what the nuisance change is affecting at all. And the only reason why I bring it up is because everything seems to relate to homeless in some way, and I've even been accused of being a nuisance recently for no reason, but that's beside the point. It happens to us.
it's not covered by.
But I just would like to understand what change this nuisance thing is really all about. I know that seems like it might be a silly question, but, and I will look into it and stuff, and then September 11th, before you do anything, but
Actually, I believe if you hang on and listen to the next conversation, you'll learn a whole
more
lot about it.
about it. Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so, who would like to go?
I would just like a refresher on why we have this ordinance before us, why we are even considering it. I think Dean might be able to answer that.
In addition, can we also add not just why, but where the language came from?
Yes, please.
So thanks, Council. We have been systematically going through our municipal code, which has been, some sections and most chapters have not been updated or modernized for 20, 30, 40 years. And attempting to not only modernize it, but make sure that it is a contemporary version of what a city needs to have to function. And that means not only updating things that were not present 40 years ago or were not of concern, but also modernizing the rights and the protections for community members. When I reviewed this ordinance in its current, and the public may not know that, but we've always had a nuisance ordinance. We've always had an ordinance that says these things are prohibited in our city, and here is what we regulate. And those have been adopted and modified by different councils. This one, not for a very long time. And so in reviewing those sections, it was determined that we just didn't have a modern ordinance that encompassed everything that a city needs to regulate in modern times, whilst preserving, the rights of our citizens and giving them more appeal rights and giving them more due process rights that were not included in the former ordinance. So that's how we got to this stage. And I think this the current iteration of this ordinance was adopted 40 some years ago or something like that. And so, whether the council, this is a policy issue as to whether the council, wants to nitpick on specifics. But I will say this from a personal perspective and a legal perspective is that, a neighbor doesn't really want to complain about something in their neighbor's yard until they want to complain about it in their neighbor's yard. And the city has to have the ability to regulate what the vision and the features and the cleanliness and the community looks like. And the only way to do that is with an ordinance of this type. This is not new. It's been on the Nevada City's books for 100 years. And this is just a modernization of that ordinance.
Thank you, Dean. The original ordinance, according to the staff report, was passed in 1956. That's nearly 70 years ago. Thank you.
Did you have other?
I don't have a further comment on that part of it.
Well, we're getting into it, right?
Yeah.
Would you like to have further comment?
Only that I like the revisions. I think they are more sensible. I think it's perfectly acceptable to say that something is an attractive nuisance, even though it's not actually led to any deaths or injuries yet. And we don't want to wait until it does to have something that tells people you need to be more cautious about what's easily accessible in your front yard. I'm also glad to see that we've taken out language that says all kinds of things are forbidden in your backyard, or if your neighbor can see it from a side yard. I think what goes on in your backyard is your own business.
Okay,
I think what goes on in your front yard is your own business.
so are you ready to
Yes,
comment?
that's what I'm doing. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, I like to keep it, so
Keep it what?
orderly, so you're surprised me. So
Great.
please go forward.
All right, forgive me for surprising you. I shall go forth. I think what goes on in people's front yards is their own business. There's so many things here that I want to comment on. One is just Zach's comment of the Disneyfication of Nevada City. I was born and raised in Orlando, Florida, with immigrant grandparents who worked at Walt Disney World for 35 years in housekeeping. And I will say, in both the Country Bear Jamboree and Splash Mountain, I saw clotheslines with clothes hanging. So I don't know if this is quite Disneyfication in that sense. Just for clarity on that. It's a little tongue in cheek.
Thank you.
Dean, I hear you. We've been dotting our i's and crossing our t's in terms of ordinances, and I'm grateful for that process. There are so many things that we should be looking at that haven't been updated in a lot of years. That's one thing that I love about this iteration of this council and the previous council, is that we've taken time to do that. I do not, however, agree that the city needs this to function, or needs parts of this to function. I do think, as Mary mentioned, the clothesline, the furniture, the playground, the RVs, I do think this is an overreach of how, I hear that this is typical, this is standard amongst cities. I will also push back on that and say that in many ways, Nevada City is not typical and standard. And in some ways, we've prided ourselves on that. And I particularly think that in my position on council, I've pushed back, not saying that others haven't, but I've pushed back on what is traditional and standard, because we need to find out what's right for this city and not maybe what's standard across the board. I feel like I hear that, although I do think that the modifications are an improvement, I'm not pleased with them. I feel like the addition of a fence, which I'm not a fan of aesthetically, fences in people's yards to hide children playing or clean clothes drying, is what we should be asking of people. I'm not certain that we should be telling people that those things belong in private. They're so human, they're so real, they're so natural. It's like, we're people, we're real, y'all. I wanna see kids playing, I wanna see clothes hanging out. I don't care if people have clothes hanging. Great, you're not using that power to dry your clothes in a dryer. The environment thanks you. I'm not a fan of how, I am not in support of pushing this forward as is. you know, it was about 4 years ago where we had a conversation, probably 3.5 years ago, where at least a couple of us, maybe Gary, I'm not sure if you were with us yet, but we had the conversation about the beautiful and appropriate sign on the side of the National. Yeah. And I said in that meeting that I'm not interested in living in a gated community. If I wanted to live in a gated community, I would move to a gated community. That's not what Nevada City is, and I'm not interested in the city being a homeowners association and deciding what people can have in their front yards if it's not a hazard. If someone's got a tractor that's leaking oil everywhere, I think that's a different thing than people drying their clothes or sitting on furniture or children playing. That's where I am.
So can I make one comment? And this is obviously a policy direction and decision. The difficult part from a staff's perspective is when you're trying to make a determination as to what is a hazard. And if you allow furniture in the front yard or you allow storage in your front yard, staff and code enforcement have no ability without clear rules to determine whether 10% of storage in your front yard is okay or whether 90% of storage that could be a hazard is in your front yard. So there have to be parameters and bumper lanes for staff to be able to enforce something that, and I know that you're not saying this, Councilmember Fernandez, that, you know, people should be able to just maintain whatever hazards they want, but
No, that's absolutely not what I'm saying.
I agree with that. I mean, I know that, but we also, staff needs to have a parameter to be able to determine that. And that parameter can't be one council member or one staff member saying, I think that's okay. And I don't think that's okay. I think that's pretty. I think that's ugly. That's how ordinances function in terms of providing those bumper lanes and the rules, whether you like rules or not. Again, this is not me disagreeing with you at all. This is just me giving you the background on how that code enforcement function works. And you really can't, I mean, you can modify it for sure. And you can have your versions of it, but you either got to say we're going to have rules as to what people have, or you don't have rules as to any of it. And then you might not be happy with what's next to you.
No, but I'm not talking, what I'm talking about is not storage in a yard. I'm not saying there shouldn't be rules. I'm saying that I don't approve of this part of the ordinance. And if this isn't about council members saying, oh, I support this and I don't support this, then what the heck are we doing here? And why is council talking about this?
Absolutely. And that was me saying to you, this is your call. It's a policy issue. And so, you know, this is not a legal issue. Sean and I will take direction and staff will take direction as to what this council wants, for sure.
Okay, Councilor, I'd like to continue with comments from the council members, and we'll open it up to you again at the end.
Sure. I agree with my colleagues that this is an improvement on what was presented at the last meeting. It's not an improvement so much that it makes me want to vote for it, but it makes me want to see how we can improve it further. My suspicion right now is that if this was put on the ballot, it wouldn't pass. So maybe that's something we could aim for. Some of the public comment we got through email, I thought made excellent points. Some other ones I think were responding to the first version of this. But I just don't see what the danger is with a clothesline. I don't see what the danger is with playground equipment that's being kept in good repair. I don't see how a well-maintained Airstream trailer counts as an eyesore. Those are some of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. And a version of housing besides. we've been talking a lot since my colleague, the mayor, became the mayor, that this is the year of the neighbor, year of the neighborhood. It's one of those two. It's possibly both. Thank you. Year of the neighborhood. I feel like this is a great opportunity for this council to listen to our neighborhoods and bring forward the best version of this. And I don't think we're there yet.
Thank you. Councilmember Fleming.
Sure. Hi, Dean, can you talk to a little bit about attractive nuisance and the whole sort of concept here? I think that, we're getting caught up on nuisances, and, I know that there's a legal definition of attractive nuisances and why there's a need to, protect usually children, but also, adults from attractive nuisances. So some of that, I think, falls into that concept. I too agree that this is a better version. I think that, there could be some, refining around the margins. I think the intent of this ordinance is well placed. I think that, we kind of know what some of the issues are in our communities. There's some neighbors who have just completely, disrespectful, I would say, just hoarders. Hoard stuff in their front yard. I think that we're trying to prevent that on some level. And I do think we need this ordinance. I think we can fine tune it a little bit more. But Dean, also, is there another state legal mechanism for dealing with nuisances as well? So if you could answer those two things on the attractive nuisance and the state mechanism, that'd be great.
Well, I mean, it's a difficult question on the attractive nuisances question. I'm not a big fan of justifying enforcement mechanisms on attractive nuisances. And yes, you're right. There are certain things that invite dangerous conditions. But at the I'll come back to the point, which is that, the baseline of this nuisance ordinance, and the nuisance ordinance that's been in place for 70 years or 60 years, has been that, the city has to have, well, the city does not have to have, I will say, the city has had, let me rephrase, provisions that dictate what is and what is not wanted in that community. So, should the council want to go through each of these ordinances and say, one clothesline is okay, but a clothesline with, in this condition is not okay? That is where the council's not involved in that scenario. And that's where it's neighbor to neighbor, and it's, what conditions are possible. So I know that wasn't a direct answer to the attractive nuisance question, but I just feel like at some level, every city, and I know, Daniela, you're gonna, not like this, Adam, you're not gonna like this in terms of, I don't agree with the fact that we need to be like every other city. Trust me, I believe that. But I also believe that, and I know that both sides of the community will say, I don't want this in my backyard, and that's very subjective. And the point of this type of ordinance is to remove the subjectivity. And to add some, this is what's allowed and what's not allowed. So, if the council wants to send this back, this is not something that should be, this is not an ordinance really that's kind of debated in any really context. So if the council wants to send this back and create a committee and talk about what rules they want to and don't want to enforce, I would just highlight that when you start pulling things out of a nuisance ordinance, then the extremes can happen. And then you have no other recourse if you do not have those provisions in place. The second part of the question, are there other avenues to enforce nuisances? Yes, this council has authorized, receivership actions where the court takes over somebody's property because there is no egress and ingress to the property because of storage in the front yard. So, and yes, those are life, health, and safety concerns. But I will also emphasize that the only way we get there is to actually list in our petition the violations of the city's municipal code. So I get it. We don't need to be like everybody else. You may want to relax some of these rules and allow some of these things to happen. To answer the earlier question, this was modeled on, a number of different ordinances and tweaked to accommodate that. But I'll stop talking right now with that.
Thank you, Dean. You touched on something that I think we're all, kind of aware of here is the subjectivity. This is, what I think is a nuisance is not what somebody else will think is a nuisance. I'm a little gun shy on this right now because I'm dealing with an HOA situation where, there's a rogue person who is trying to use this as a weapon, use the HOA, CC&Rs as a weapon to enforce things that he personally doesn't like or against people he personally doesn't like. And so there's I know you love slippery slopes, but there's a slippery slope here when you start getting into the fine-tuned details. And Dean, to your point, I think it's really hard to, legislate around each specific kind of nuisance. I think that, if we workshop this, that would be just a nightmare. I think for staff and for the community, just because, it would cause, a certain amount of disagreement and, what one person likes and another person doesn't. But, I think we can all agree on some general guidelines of what, broad definitions of nuisances are, like a dilapidated, car on the front lawn. I think we would all agree is not acceptable. So I don't know. I don't want to, create too much more work for staff, but I think that we're going to have to, based on what I'm feeling is the council's, position on this, we're going to have to fine tune this a little bit more. And I don't know exactly, I could go either way on a lot of this stuff. So I don't really know how to do it. And I'm glad I'm not charged with having to decide what is a nuisance here and go through this. But I think there's a general sentiment from the public comments we've gotten and from the council that, just because I think we're just not used to seeing a nuisance ordinance, it's a little bit shocking. So I think that if there's a way to qualify some of this, and I don't know how, but there's a way to make this a little bit more neighbor friendly, I think that's where we are as a community. So I'll leave it at that and let the mayor have his go.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. Thank you, Dean. I do support this, and I'm going to be very clear why I support this. But first, I did want to say that the language about Airstream trailers says that as long as it's in good working order and maintained and parked on a pad, it can be in your driveway or in your front yard if you have a pad. It does not exclude that. There are many, many exclusions in here. We have in place now a nuisance ordinance that covers 80% of this and not as well. It has been in place for decades. It has been in place for very good reasons for decades. But I want to make the point that nobody's hunting anybody down for these violations of these nuisances. And nobody cares until they care. So if you don't have this when your neighbor who's a long haul truck driver starts parking his big rig in your neighborhood, what are you going to do about it? And the fact is, if it's not in your code and it's not a nuisance, you can't do anything about it. That's why these exist. They become neighborhood issues. Who's got the car in the front yard? Who is trashing out the neighborhood, who's having the parties, what are the nuisances. The reason that these exist is because they are common occurrences that happen in cities all the time, and you need to be able to safeguard your community. Nobody's out looking for these, but it becomes a neighbor to neighbor issue. And when your neighbors who don't like this suddenly have somebody that moves in next door with 6 cars, they're going to wish you had this because you're going to need to deal with it. I have been overexperienced on this one to the nth degree. I had enforcement policy on this in a very, very tough city, and there are really good reasons why you have these. Because when you need them, when somebody's burning weeds in their backyard, when somebody's got 12 cars parked on the lawn in the front yard. These are all things I've seen. When people are collecting trash and doing their own recycling business in the backyard. This is why these nuisances exist, is to protect the public health and safety of our community. We're not out there hunting it down, and we're not going to be hunting it down. This is actually a far superior document to what we had because it's much clearer about what those nuisances are. It also has an appeal process, which did not exist in the original document. And by law, you've got to have that appeal process, and by fairness, you should have that appeal process. So I think that we listened, adjustments were made. It's interesting, some people want us to loosen it up, some people want us to tighten it up on very specific things. I think that it sits well as it is. And would support it because I understand why we have it and what it's used for. This is not to persecute people. This is not to overregulate you. It's sure as hell not to be an HOA, the nightmares of all organizational existence. But we need to have this, and this is a pretty good one, and it's going to serve us for a long time. You guys want to tune it up? Go for it. But I'm happy with it the way it is.
Mayor, may I?
Let's hear from the city manager.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Appreciate everything you said. If I might, I haven't heard any comments, public or from the council, or from our city attorney's office on the items that are not the listing of nuisances, but the appeals process, the definitions, the how we do those things. And that's about 3/4 of the actual ordinance. Of the things we're talking about that list the ordinance, there's 38 that we started with. There's 26 in our base ordinance as it exists today.
We only have that many letters.
That's exactly why, because it was A through Z, and then they had to stop because it was in typeset. And so those 26 carry over in some fashion, right? Some of them are much more artful in their description. But if you take those 38, we eliminated one because we said the holiday lights one shouldn't have been there in the first place. I believe we addressed the garbage can issue because now with the revision that's recommended to you this evening, it simply says that the garbage cans can't be in the street with the exception of 24 hours on either side of collection. So it doesn't require anything as far as screening or where they are, front yards, side yards, and the like. So we went from 38 to 37. We've addressed the garbage can ones. What I'm hearing from you, and I'm not saying this is exhaustive, but the things that maybe are the biggest pinch for folks remain number 7, which is clotheslines, number 9, which is playground equipment, number 10, which is furniture, and then a number of people have brought up RVs. That wasn't on our list. We haven't amended it. If I might just share what that is and what it speaks to, and then let you go on. But because we're talking about a much smaller subset of this ordinance, I believe, than we were in the last meeting. And so the recreational vehicles part, trailers, campers, boats, mobile equipment, these are things that don't drive themselves. Other than like ATVs or motorcycles, but a motor home itself wouldn't be in this category, it'd be in the next category under vehicles. It says that they are a nuisance, except the prohibition doesn't apply to such forms of personal property that are in good repair, free of graffiti, displaying current registration or licensing if required by the state of California, in which the city of Nevada City zoning ordinance expressly authorizes it in said location. What that means part. What that means is we allow driveways, right, for your house. So if it's on a driveway or you pave it or you put asphalt down, this would allow you to have it unless it's not registered. All the wheels are taken off and it's in a state of disrepair, or it has graffiti on it. Graffiti registration and state of disrepair.
Or if it's
What-
on grass, right?
What you couldn't do is park it on your lawn. You couldn't park your boat trailer on your lawn. It does mean that. So if that's a concern, I have no comment. But if the concern was simply, can you have your Airstream in your side yard, your front yard? Yes, if it's parked on concrete pavers or some purpose-made thing other than your grass or your wife's rose bushes. I hope you don't park on your wife's rose bushes.
Can I just make one little comment about that, just for
Absolutely.
clarification? No, just about this one thing. We had the same issue, and it was that if you had a gravel pad next to your driveway, that was acceptable. So it wasn't the lawn, you'd have to put in some kind of, not a full-in, cement pad, but a gravel surface that you could park on. So that's what we've ended up with. I don't know how that applies here, but would that be acceptable? Or does it have to be on asphalt or pavement under the way it's written?
It would be on a case-by-case basis. Certainly if it's on asphalt or pavement, that
No
is
problem.
allowed there, no problem.
Yep.
Impervious.
There are certainly people in this community, many people in this community, including people sitting on this dais, who live in houses that were built before there was concrete or asphalt, and therefore their driveway is not that. And so it still remains a driveway.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
there are ways to account for that.
I don't have one.
Yeah, some of us don't have driveways on the drive.
Right.
I think Danielle.
Let
and I
me
have a
just,
second.
Danielle, you want to comment?
Yeah, please.
I'll come to you.
Thank you, Gary, for breaking down why we're doing this ordinance, why we have this ordinance. Totally makes sense, totally get it. I appreciate you saying that 80% of this is already in place. I appreciate Sean's follow-up comments to say that the majority of this is not what's in question, but it's a few things. So, Gary, yes, I think most of us would agree we don't want our neighbors to park their big rigs. Those are not the things that we're talking about. We are specifically talking about a clothesline. We are specifically talking about a playground. We are specifically talking about RVs and furniture. And so I don't know how, I mean, I can imagine, I'm hearing that equated with storage in yards, and perhaps if you had all those things, that could be storage. And so I just want to note that, like, I hear you saying, Gary, we're not seeking this out, we're not looking, but the thing is if it's law, we might not be seeking it out, but in 4 years, and 6 years, and 8 years, it might be a different governing body that can absolutely seek it out if it's in the law. So that's not,
Still do that now.
that's sure, but that's not good enough for me to say, oh, let's get this on the books, but we're not seeking it out. I want us to get on the books what's appropriate for our community, and I think we're all on that same boat. But I just wanted to speak to those nuances.
Yeah, can I?
Hang on.
Okay.
Mine is a procedural question. Is it possible to sever the procedural part from the enumerated list of offenses?
What does that mean?
That list of, what is it now, 37 things becomes either a separate ordinance, or is passed by a resolution, or eliminated entirely, or anyway, to get to the procedure, this is how we do it, this is the appeal process, and get that set, which brings the rights of the property owners up to date, and leave for another discussion what exactly qualifies as a nuisance.
And the answer is no. Resolutions create policy, ordinances create law.
So maybe we could do something
Hang
even a
on,
little smaller.
Please hold on, please. We're going to make sure Councilmember CC's done.
Okay.
Yes, I was afraid your answer would be no. And
I have a
I
subset
wonder
of that.
if there's still an end run we can do and say that we can have a policy of a list of things.
The answer is no also. You're tying, when it comes to what is, and I appreciate Daniela's comments, the noted, words that I heard in terms of maybe this constitutes, a violation, maybe this does not work in the realm of code enforcement and the realm of enforceability. You have to have rules. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to have ordinances. You have to have policy. You have to that say this is what's allowed. You can like the rules, you can not like the rules, and I'm not, trust me, council, you know me. This is not me advocating for this because you're going to do whatever you're going to do. The questions that are surrounding all of this is frankly, if you want to just abandon this whole concept, you're still going to have your nuisance ordinance in place. And code enforcement is still going to enforce it, but they're going to enforce it in a way that is not modernized and probably does not include what should be included from a due process perspective. Councilmember Ceci, to your question, I want to rephrase it, which is, can we do something as a policy that we generally don't do this? I think that's a wrong way of paraphrasing this. Maybe the way that it could be paraphrased is, could we fix the due process and the appeals issues and not change any of the violation lists? Sure, we could do that too. But you don't create laws by policy, and policy does not give staff or your police department or your code enforcement department the parameters as to what they cite somebody for. Whether you like citing or not, that's the rule. That's, you know, that's what we have in place, and this was an attempt to modernize that and add some elements and clean up some elements as the council has given staff the direction to do in terms of modernizing the entire municipal code. I would just say lastly, thank you, that, you know, it would be a nightmare, and I don't suggest this, for the council to start going through violation by violation, and it's an untenable position to decide what is an acceptable a clothesline, what is an acceptable amount of storage, because it's all subjective.
Thank you, Dean. Doug.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe we can, it seems like the issues are with, as Mary pointed out, 7, 9, 10, and 24, right? I think those are the only ones that we're really having issues with. Is there anybody else that, you know, 24 would be the RV, and then, you know, we're not at issue with 25. So can we, you know, again, you know, to Dean's point, how do we tweak this to make it acceptable to everybody? I don't know how.
Okay,
How can we make progress on it today?
Yeah, but I'd like to maybe get something on the books and then, you know, just deal with the smaller part.
Hold on. We're not to a motion yet. We're not quite there yet. I'm going to make another comment, though. I wanted to go back to attractive nuisance. Yeah, we can, but I'm not done yet, so I get my second round too. So I wanted to go back to attractive nuisance and the complaints about the fence. The courts decide attractive nuisance when you get sued because somebody climbed up a ladder that was leaning against your roof and fell off and hurt themselves. That fence protects you as a citizen. The case law out there on attractive nuisance is lengthy. And there's a lot of money people have taken from a lot of people around a child, no fence, playing on and hurting themselves, and the homeowner being sued. That's what attractive nuisance is about, and that's what we're trying to prevent with that fence. Granted, I'm, you know, and the libertarian side of me says, that's your problem. You should have put up the fence. So, you know, what I'm going to propose, and I don't know, and I'm not seeing Dean, I hope we didn't do damage to him, was I think, I believe.
Just turn off his camera.
It's possible, let me check this with you, Dean. It's possible to approve this ordinance minus the 4 or 5 areas of agreement, disagreement, and then amend the ordinance after it's worked out? Is that possible?
So moved.
Is that possible?
He's back.
Is it legal?
The answer is yes, but he's back.
Is that possible, Dean?
I am back. I'm sorry. I had to go do a therapy for a second. So,
Ooh, I don't want to know anymore.
Therapy?
yeah, not because of this conversation.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Did
So can somebody rephrase?
Yeah, sure. Did you get it?
So the answer is, my recommendation is that if there's isolated areas of concern and there's a majority, meaning 3 of you, that say they do not want items number, whatever, I wrote them down somewhere, whatever.
Okay, we know what they are. We know what they are.
Okay,
7, 9,
all
10,
right.
24.
So if that's, we don't want that. I mean, the council can always come back if the world falls apart and clotheslines become the biggest issue in the world.
That's post-apocalyptic, Dean. We're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, you can bring it back and add it in there. So if there's majority direction to, modify the areas of concern, my recommendation is that you don't do what you did last time in terms of not conduct this public hearing or continue it. Give staff direction to modify the ordinance. We will modify the ordinance if there's 3 of you that agree to that. And we will bring it back for second reading with those modifications. And frankly, at the second reading and adoption, if you want to make further modifications, you could do it as well. It's not the most effective and efficient way to do this. But did that answer the question?
Well, let me paraphrase here, and somebody may pick this up as a motion, possibly, is that we would approve the ordinance for second reading, subject to modifications. No, we would approve the first reading, we would move it to the second reading with recommendation for modifications that would come back at the second reading, and then we could approve it or not.
Well, so, I mean, technically, I think there's a combination of yes and no. You would, tonight, what you would need to do is, I would need a motion to conduct the first reading by title only, and to, subject to the council's direction in terms of modification. What I have not heard is 3 of you saying, this is the modifications we want.
Okay.
1, modifications, elimination of items 24, 7, 10, and 9. Anybody with me?
Well, hold on, if I could clarify, you want to completely eliminate them from the nuisance ordinance altogether?
I want us to hold the first reading, waive reading of ordinance with the elimination of those 4, and move forward with everything else.
So you would like to, and I'm not looking at those 4 items. Sean, you might be able to help me out here.
Yeah.
When you say that, you're going to say that any amount of playground equipment, no matter what it is, whether it's a playhouse or whether it's a dilapidated, 6-story structure, is going to be completely eliminated. I just want to clarify that.
Yes. It's not a
Looking for a
urgent
second.
problem.
Looking for a
I
second.
think, did you second it?
I think I seconded
We've got a
that.
second and a third.
So just if I could clarify, since
Summary, please.
Dean is remote,
Therapy.
it would be to conduct first reading, waiving the reading of the ordinance, reading by title only, and you would be striking, which we would bring back to you in red line form at the next meeting, 8.04.030, a 7, 9, 10, and 24, which is clotheslines, playground equipment, furniture, and RVs for brevity.
Completely removed.
That is that,
Brought
that's your
back.
motion?
And brought back.
Brought back for reconsideration, brought back for,
Brought back with modifications?
So
Or are we looking?
because you were looking at elimination, complete elimination, and I'm struggling with
I
that.
Well, I didn't
seconded.
look for complete elimination. I didn't agree with the way that they were written.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to understand.
All right.
Clarification. The problem I have with that is, and I generally agree with this, is I don't know how they're going to modify it to please everybody. I don't see that. happening. So, you know,
I don't understand how either, but something apparently would come back to us modified at the, at the second reading, and then we could approve it or not.
okay. Yeah.
That's my understanding, but I do not understand how how the items will be modified between now and then.
And frankly, Sean can cut me off if he wants to. He knows that. How 7, 9, 10, and 24 are modified cannot be something that staff just makes up here. Staff, council, the majority of council needs to give direction on how they want it modified.
And you certainly can. I don't want to muddy the waters, but Dean said if the world ends, I'm paraphrasing, if the world ends and clotheslines are the biggest issue. So what I mean by that is these 4 things, while I think it's important to address them, if they're not in our ordinance revision 60 days from now, it won't be the end of the world. And if they are, we could do an urgency ordinance, a moratorium of playgrounds and front yards at one meeting that would make them immediately illegal until we revise the ordinance. So the only reason I say all of that is because the thing that would work the best, because absent clear direction on what you want in these 4 things, you're going to leave it to me to craft something so I'm down for it. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. But we could absolutely remove them, and I can bring those 4 and any other items that you would like to a committee of your choice in the future to discuss whether these should come back in a future ordinance revision with language. That is what would happen if you completely remove them, is that they would be gone at second reading.
Thank you, Sean. With that in mind, do I have majority support to remove them, to move forward with the rest of the ordinance and remove those 4?
As long as they come back.
So,
and that we,
Well, that's an amendment.
Hold on. So you made a motion to,
I didn't, well, I'm asking, I'm communicating with my colleagues.
all right, I'm trying to do the thing here. There was a motion made to approve the first reading and bring it back for a second reading, eliminating those items.
I didn't make the motion. I asked the table if I had others that would join me.
Because Councilmember Ceci thought you did because he seconded it.
That's what I thought I seconded.
Great, awesome.
So that's your motion.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that is a motion.
And we have a second.
Again, a second.
All right, so
So would you like me to recap it again?
let's get it.
Dean has thoughts.
Dean, did you have some?
No, I don't have thoughts. What I'm hearing is just, and I think Sean was just going to say this, was the motion, and I didn't hear a formal motion, but if that was made, then that's fine. It is conduct the first reading by title only with direction to staff to remove items 7, 9, 10, and 24 completely. If that's the motion and that's the second, then that's clear.
Thank you, Dean. That is the motion.
That's what I intended as
That's a
well.
second, so I'm sure you've got that it's a motion by Councilmember Fernandez, second by Councilmember Ceci.
I did.
Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Councilmember Ceci.
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming.
Get off the fence, Doug.
I'm on this fence that we built. Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Klein.
Yes.
Mayor Peterson.
No.
Wow, dissension among the ranks. I love it.
I know why we do it.
Before.
I've just lived it too much.
I appreciated your comment too, and that's definitely a good context for us to understand as we revise this. And, I do think we have to give some direction here. Because
Well,
if
you
we're just
will-
going to do this again,
You will absolutely live to regret the elimination of vehicles. You
we
will
didn't take vehicles off, just RVs.
RVs, excuse me, but you will live to regret that one. Promise you.
So first reading passed 4-1. It'll come back to you on September 11th as second reading, which would be on consent with those items eliminated unless you pull it or direct me otherwise. And I will work with the mayor to see if the item needs to go to a committee to review those four and which committee you would like it to go to. And then it can come back to the council when those 4 items are ready for prime time, and or you just want to beat me up on the topic again. So either one is fine.
Wait a minute,
beat
I'm
up
hearing a
Dean.
little, I'm hearing a little victimness in there that's
No,
not
no.
Is this about beating up?
unwarranted.
No.
Is that what's happening?
I was
here?
trying to bring levity. I apologize. It
see.
didn't come across.
Missed
Beat up on
again.
Dean today. Dean is the one who
No,
got.
Dean was bringing the levity tonight, right. All right.
He needed a medical.
All right, we're going to move on here. Okay. So, all right. Steve Erlinson's going to join us in consideration of the city investment
Yay.
report for fiscal year 2023-2024 and 2, a 5-year revenue expenditure report for fiscal years 2025 through 2029. Steve, how are you?
Good luck, Steve.
Oh, poor guys, poor Sean, poor Dean,
Oh,
poor babies.
good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Before you this evening, and I'm going to share my screen here, is your annual investment report and 5-year financial forecast. I hope you can see this.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So this is something, both of these documents are new to the city of Nevada City. So I'll walk you through them at a high level and answer any questions you may have about either document at the end of the presentation, if that's okay with you. So first I'll cover the annual investment report. So the purpose of that report is to review your investment activity for, in this case, fiscal year 23-24. Usually, I would go back 10 years on your investment activity, but with the data that I have and what we've been doing since I came on board, I basically have about 2 years of data, but we'll add to that as time goes on. The elements of the report in general are portfolio performance in comparison to major benchmarks. Those benchmarks would be LAIF, the 5-year treasury yield, 1-year treasury yield, and 6-month treasury yield. There's also a review of trends regarding the size of the city's portfolio, so you can see how the portfolio has changed over the course of a year, and even this year and last year. I also talk about investment risk in the portfolio and what the composition of the city's investment portfolio is. And then I also talk about investment income and where I think we're going to have, or what I think our investment income is going to be for the upcoming year. But I also talk about what it was in fiscal year 23-24 and why it would change. And lastly, both the city manager and I, similar to your quarterly investment reports, sign a compliance certification stating that all the information within your annual investment report is true and in compliance with your investment policy that you adopted back in January. So some key takeaways for your annual investment report are that we are in an inverted yield curve in this current economy. And what that really means is shorter term investments are paying a higher yield than longer term investments. Usually it's the opposite. So there are things you could read into that. I won't get into the economics of all of that unless you want me to, but our investment strategy has led us during 23-24 and even into this first part of 24-25 into purchasing higher yielding securities with a shorter duration or otherwise a shorter maturity. This investment strategy has increased the city's weighted average return on its portfolio from 3.15% back in July of 2023 to 3.69% in June, as of June 30 of 2024. And in doing all of this, we have still maintained the city's top 2 investment priorities that are outlined in the investment policy, which is safety and liquidity. So we've maintained all of those and we've increased the city's yield. So we've increased investment income for the city for one-time items like CIP projects. The second document I want to talk about is your 5-year financial forecast. So the purpose of the 5-year financial forecast is to provide a forward look at your general fund operating revenues and expenditures. Also, providing that same look at your water and wastewater operations. And we also incorporate known grant monies to be received. So if we've received grant awards as of today, and those are going to go out into future years, those are included, but no assumptions have really been made on grants that we don't have actual award letters for. In this 5-year financial forecast, we also incorporate the 5-year CIP for a holistic forecast. So that 5-year forecast that was for CIP that was presented to you at the time of budget adoption is also incorporated into this document. And again, the purpose of this document is to identify financial trends and shortfalls that could potentially occur in future years. And it's also to identify any opportunities and or issues that could arise. Again, this is not something that's going to happen. These are just assumptions that could possibly happen in the next 5 years. So the document is kind of similar in ways to your operating budget that you're familiar with now. So there's a general information section that has demographic information, our budget process, our account structure, budget terminology, and classification of funds. And then we also have for 5 years worth estimated changes in fund balance. So you can see where we believe we're going to begin fund balance in 24-25, and what we think fund balance is going to be for all of your funds, general fund and all of the other funds in the city through June 30th, 2029. And then within that same section are all the assumptions we used in this forecast. Those assumptions being historical data, forecasted inflation, CPI, and other data that we receive from our third-party consultants like HDL for sales tax information. And then obviously in the document, you're going to have forecasted revenues and expenditures, and all those expenditures are going to be broken out by program and departmental details. So again, similar to what you see with your annual budget. So some of your significant general revenue items, or I'll say assumptions, we're anticipating about a 3.2% increase annually for property tax over the next 4 to 5 years. Sales tax will vary between 2% to maybe 4%. Again, that comes from HDL plus historical data and trends in the current economy. Room tax, we're anticipating about a 3% annual increase. Again, that comes from historical data. And your franchise fees, we also anticipate increasing by about 3% annually. Again, that's from historical data and current trends. And these assumptions that we're using, just so you know, are very conservative. In some years, some of these revenue items actually increased a lot more than the 3% or 2% that you see here. So this forecast is very conservative. I just want to point that out. Continuing on with significant general revenue assumptions, business license, we pegged to CPI, or the increase or forecasted increase in inflation, so that's 2% to 2.1%. Charges for services, we're pegging at about 3.5% annually. That's based upon CPI and the fact that even our cost recovery for a lot of our charges for services, or user fees as they're called, are still significantly below the true cost recovery for the city. So that gives us some leeway that I wanted to provide you and city staff. Fines and forfeitures have been trending about 3.5% annually, in some cases better. And then miscellaneous revenues, which really constitute grant administrative fees and some other miscellaneous fees. Those are anticipated to grow about 3% annually based upon historical trends. Significant general fund expenditure assumptions, personnel costs, when I say personnel costs, I'm talking about salaries, overtime, incentive pay, things like that. Those are tied to past MOUs and what, you know, I kind of think might happen in the future. So we're anticipating 4% annually. The actual true increase in PERS miscellaneous and PERS safety, so just the actuarial reports and those increases from CalPERS historically have been about 0.1%, 0.2% of in rate increases. Now, your actual PERS costs in the city are going to be a combination of these PERS increases plus your personnel costs. And that detail is in the departmental costs throughout the document. And then health insurance is anticipated to grow between 5% to 9% annually. Health insurance costs for the upcoming year, calendar year, on average with CalPERS are increasing a little or about 9%. So there's a range there. Most of your expenditures are going to, your M&O expenditures are going to increase by about 1%, so a little less than what we pegged for CPI or inflation. That has actually been the historical trend. The growth in M&O has usually been a little less than CPI increase. So your staff does a great job of controlling costs. I really give them kudos for that. The sharing agreement of 3% annually, that's related to the contract with Grass Valley for fire. That's a known quantity, so we've got that in there. Capital outlay, right now, we have capital outlay built into the 5-year forecast, but at this point, we're keeping the growth of capital outlay flat at 0%. And miscellaneous expenses. It says miscellaneous revenues, that's my fault. Little odds and ends that come up, and these are very minor amounts. Historically, they've increased by 10% or they've gone up 1% or 0. I put in a 3% flat rate for miscellaneous type items, which is very conservative. So key takeaways for the 5-year financial forecast is it is anticipated that the city is going to realize moderate revenue growth. And it should be known that personnel is your largest expenditure increase, again, at 4% for your baseline personnel cost plus any increases related to PERS at about 0.1 to 0.2%. And that this document is also only a tool to identify opportunities and potential issues. So again, this isn't telling you what the future is going to be. It's just based upon some assumptions that have been made where we think we might end up. So this is a dynamic document that will change constantly. Hence the last bullet point here. The assumptions are going to change, maybe even throughout the year, but definitely the next time you see this document. So tonight, we request that you file the reports presented to you and provide any direction to staff as you see fit. And I'll answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Go ahead, Sean.
Thank you, Steve. Excellent as always. Council, this is a very important document for us for long-range planning. It's also very important for me to be able to squeeze Steve as much as possible to achieve the things that you want done. And what I mean by how we use this document is, Steve's right. It's a forecast. It's a model, right? But it's a very comprehensive model with a lot of inputs and outputs. And why that's important is because if something changes, we can change the model to reflect the actual change in that one item and then look at what the outputs are again and make sure we're still on track. Because they'll all do this, but at the end of the day, it's can we afford the employees that we have and the service delivery model that we deploy. The council has been gracious in taking a perspective that we're trying to achieve parity or as close to there as possible for pay of our employees with our competitors, largely Grass Valley and the county. It will take us time to get there, but that involves pay raises. That's why that model is built in there. Our employees are about 60% of the total use of our revenues, and but those are the people that convert tax dollars into direct service to our community. So it's, that is incredibly important. Human capital is our most important capital. And then the council, through your guidance and our strategic plan and the actions that we'll take over the next 6 to 18 months related to fire and housing and public art and support of our businesses, largely take money to enhance those services. And so this document's incredibly important in that regard. Even though it is a planning document, it is a model, and it could end up being wrong. I would say, because Steve and I have worked together in a previous life, and you heard him say that conservative on the budgeting of revenues, and that's what you see in our budgets in general. We would hope's not a plan, but we've been pretty effective at it. We would hope that we would outperform revenues as what you see in here, as same as what you've seen in our budgeting, and that we would be as close as possible on expenditures. So at the end of the day, we would hope that our revenues would come in higher and our expenditures would be pretty close, so that the output at the end let us keep going down the road with the services that we need over the next 5 years.
Great, thank you. Comments? Public?
I had a question. I saw the increases in revenue and expenditures, but on balance, will the increases in revenues match or exceed the increase in expenditures?
So from an operating standpoint, the answer is yes. That's going to be dependent, though, Councilmember Sussy, on your 5-year CIP forecast and how much of general fund contributions are going to be required to possibly match future grants that do require a match from general fund. So from an operating standpoint, the answer would be yes, for the most part. I think the linchpin would be, again, any future CIP contributions required from the general fund, which aren't really built into the later years of this model.
Got it. And then just for my information, I know Measure C is not part of the general fund. Do we have an investment strategy for it as well?
So the city uses a pooled cash or pooled investment strategy. So the monies, the cash that you see in the city's quarterly investment reports that you receive, that's considered pooled cash. So that's not just general fund, that's citywide cash for all funds, including Measure C. And then investment earnings or investment income is allocated to the various funds based upon the cash balances within those funds at the moment of calculation or the moment of reporting.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Good question.
Thank you. Other comments, questions?
I just want to put an exclamation point on everything Sean said, just about the importance of this document and how well done it is. I know we say this over and over again, but just you make this so accessible. I've looked at budgets in the past and just kind of gone cross-eyed. And this is just really understandable, and I appreciate the accessibility. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we love you, Steve, and we love your work. So thank you. I'm sorry you're not moving here, though. I really am.
Yet.
But, that's another thing. One of the things that we passed over was the 9% health insurance raise. Is that since salaries are our biggest expenditure, personnel is our biggest expenditure. How does that factor in? Is that something that seems high? But healthcare is going up. We know that.
It is. In this case and in this document, healthcare is what I will say, no other personnel cost in the city is dependent upon healthcare. So the healthcare line item, that 9% increase in healthcare, does not increase your other personnel costs.
Okay, so that's
But
just,
let's say a raise to an employee would obviously impact your PERS costs. It would impact Social Security and Medicare or FICA costs. You know, that has a trickle-down effect, so to speak, on your other costs. The increase in healthcare or medical with CalPERS is a standalone cost,
okay.
if that makes sense.
That really helps. One other thing that, you know, this is a great document, has a lot of information. I was touching on this earlier with somebody in the county, and I talked to Sean a little bit about it. There's a proposed amendment to the county's cannabis ordinance, which is going to probably bring in 2 or 3 more dispensaries. Yeah, one in possibly South County, possibly Penn Valley, possibly North San Juan, and then Soda Springs. We've already seen a revenue decline from the dispensary. I don't know, can we talk about this publicly, like individual businesses? Is this kosher? About the general?
Staff can't share anything specifically about sales tax generated, but certainly you can talk about what the businesses have characterized as the impacts on their business, you know, in the field.
Yeah, I ran into Daniel recently, and he said that, and he wanted to show me the numbers, and I'm going to review them. Of Elevation, I'm sorry. Yeah, our dispensary says that they've already experienced a 30% decline because of Grass Valley's dispensary coming online. And so if there are more, and I know it's, you know, it's not a small part of our sales tax. I don't know how much it is, what percentage, but it definitely will impact, you know, the bottom line. So is there a way to build in some of that, those concerns into this model, into the, you know, the overall strategy? And, you know, I know we're very conservative, but how does that factor in? If that's something you can even answer.
You want me to take it, Steve, or you want to?
Go right ahead.
If you want to talk policy, Sean, go ahead. In terms of the model, the answer is the model that could be built into the model. I mean, this model isn't super sophisticated. We're not using sensitivity analysis or linear programming or anything like that.
This record in the late 60s.
Can you mute yourself, Steve? See if that'll help.
I muted and it's not stopped. Let me get out of the meeting.
I can rephrase.
Externalization of what we're all feeling on the inside.
Would be good opportunity.
There it is.
The urinal.
I think now we lost Steve. That's right. All right, so Gabby's gonna fix that with Kyle in the back room. We'll get Steve back. The short version is we do categorize revenue in detail in the report, both as a percentage and a dollar amount, and it is in the, thank you.
It was Dean?
We blame it on Dean, apparently.
Poor Dean.
So we refer to that, if you look in the document, you'll see it as Measure F, cannabis tax. And where we have pegged that is at a CPI growth. It's pegged at a 2% growth, which is actually a less of a growth than we anticipate for the aggregate of all of our rest of our businesses. Which we show at about a 2.5% or greater growth. So it is essentially an anticipation of a flattening and or somewhat of a reduction in the retail component of cannabis, but a small growth in all of the other sectors, because they'll charge more for their product, and if they sell the same as they do this year as they did last year, that increases a marginal increase. It's not a growth in the industry so much as it's just increasing prices. So there is an anticipation essentially of a flattening and or even a reduction in the retail revenue side under there, but that's one of the ones that, as we see it come in, we'll adjust the model.
Because the model is
It's real time.
Yeah.
It's a real time model. So that's great. I just wanted to put that on our radar too.
I'm an animal apparently, or whatever you say.
As an aside, we're free to comment on the proposed ordinance for the county. And it was suggested by county staff that we do so if we are concerned.
All right, so, but we need to, because it's not on the agenda, so we need to be careful.
I was just mentioning, we're still.
I don't know what's. Usual, I'm in it. I got
Animal.
No, usual.
The edibles, the edibles, the edibles, the edibles, the edibles.
They're kicking in.
All right,
Just end the Zoom.
Something's on your mind.
all right, so,
Just end the Zoom.
I don't know what we're gonna do here. I'd like to make comments, tell Steve you did a great job, Steve. We're gonna take a bio break, for.
Filing the report.
We're filing the report. We've accepted the report. Thank you, Steve. Great work. Love the model. I'm amazed since it's never been done, we did it anyway, right?
I would have liked to have got to year one, but it took a little bit more time. So
Okay, 5-minute bio break. Come back.
thank you.
It's gonna be a line at the minute. thank you for that. And Steve, if you're still there, great job. We appreciate it. All right, so
he's
we're
not
moving
back.
on to some interesting stuff here. Item 8, consideration of a Painted Pianos temporary public art program, the City Hall Art Meets the Public Champ Gallery Program, and a resolution 2024-31 of the City Council of the City of Nevada City establishing public input and consultation practices for the review and approval of city-initiated public art projects. Take it away, Sean.
All right. So on August 7th of this year, our Public Arts Commission considered both of these programs. They were presented as frameworks, essentially in the same format that you see this evening. This means essentially that what you would be approving is the concept, the intent, and kind of the game board, so to speak, and you would push it back. If you approved them tonight, you'd push it back to the Public Arts Commission to get to the granular work, the details, the what artist is going to be listed to, what will be the criteria for grading, how much they'll be paid, things like that. So you're certainly welcome to opine on those things if you would like, but you don't have to. The Painted Piano programs comes from, we were graciously offered 2 pianos from local folks. They're pianos in good condition, well maintained. And speaking to both the people that offered them, they both just, spontaneously said it'd be cool if they were like somewhere where I could hear somebody playing them while I was eating downtown. And so that was kind of
What a nuisance.
That's subjective.
the impetus of
Guarantee you,
this.
I know some people.
So
Depends on the piano player.
the commission did recommend that you approve the program. Essentially, this one, the way it would work is every year in the beginning of the year, calendar year, we would create a new process for these to solicit artists to come and paint these pianos. There'd be 2 different versions. One, they could paint them in a warehouse during the spring to be deployed in the warmer months. 2 would be they could bid to do live painting. In other words, the piano would be available for being played at the same time that the painting was going on. It's a unique kind of artist, but it's also very interactive, 2 different types of art meeting each other, which can be very, very appealing to folks. Either way, we're kind of at the tail end of the nice part of the year. So as we acquire these pianos, the intent would be we'd place 1 or more out in the community for a week at a time with a sign and a QR code saying, hey, the Public Arts Commission is going to do this program. They'd like your input on locations and themes and that kind of thing, so that the commission can take that feedback and build the program to start in earnest next year, and then they'd be in place June, July, August, September, and we'd intend to rotate them at least once during that time to the different locations. So that is that program. I think it would be a cool program. People ask, well, won't one get damaged? Yes, eventually one will. And one will be out of tune and we'll have to retune it. And more importantly, to me, our superintendent, Shane, and his crews are going to need to be able to safely move it. So we'll buy an implement that will, kind of like a powered, hand cart pallet jacks. They make those for pianos. So we'll do something like that.
Exactly.
There is an example of a painted piano in the packet. It's a very nicely done one. We credit the artist, and the program there comes out of Fort Collins, Colorado. They have a very robust program there. And then the second part is City Hall Art Meets the Public, or CHAMP Gallery, just because CHAMP is shorter and it sounds good. If you want a different acronym, I'm open to anything. But staff's proposing that the city hosts a Public Arts Commission-driven 1-year pilot of a city-curated art program here. And really, it's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't matter. It's just get art on the walls and learn from how we deployed it. Functionally, it will be out both sets of double doors here from the council chambers. In that open area, open to the second floor, both the walls on the window side will be available. Also for vertical hanging, the area above will be available. And then of the walls going out, not the walls immediately adjacent to the bathroom doors, but essentially all of the other walls. So we would, that lends itself well to flat work, paintings, poetry, pictures, drawings. I certainly would anticipate there will be themes coming out of the commission. There will be a youth component engaging the schools, and there'll be a rotation of that work. So, we think that's a good use of the space. The component there would be that I would hope that the council would support is we're not going to pay artists we're not going to charge them for gallery space. We're not going to pay them to put them there, but they can put their name, contact information in the painting, and it can be advertised for sale when it is placed here. We're not involved in the sale of it in any way, but obviously these are people that, yes, they have money and time invested in these products, and if they wish to sell them, then I think that would be beneficial and consistent with our
Helping businesses.
Exactly. So that item was also recommended from the Public Arts Commission that you approve it and bring it back to them. That'll be their first kind of big on their own, create it from the ground up. So I'm sure it will be great, but I'm sure it will not be perfect. If it's the great parts you can attribute to the 7 wonderful volunteer planning commissioners that we have, or public arts commissioners that we have, and the part that's not perfect, we'll work on making better with them. So
I thought you were going to say we could blame you.
Yeah, you can always blame me.
No.
What he says.
But that's art. Art is not perfect, so it's brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get through this.
And then the last piece of this is the public art input and the resolution that is in the title there. And so public art is defined in our arts ordinance and our public arts policy as being, about the public and public engagement. And so the ordinance or the resolution would do essentially 3 things. First, it'd be your directive, your policy to us that all city-initiated public art projects would include solicitation of public input through public meetings, the city council, committees, commissions, prior to approval. I know that seems like it should be the way it is anyway, but this would just provide your policy that ones won't slip through, right? The public gets to have public input. We're talking about city-initiated. If a business wants to put, a mural on their property, they get to choose what that is and choose to submit, and that goes through the commissions and the like. The second part of the resolution is that all city-initiated public art projects that include reference to or visually represent the Nisenan include consultation with the Nisenan. And then the last part is all city-initiated public projects that involve or portray the history of the gold rush shall include consultation prior to approval with the Nevada City Rancheria and Nisenan tribe and any other organization representing groups that were oppressed, underrepresented, or marginalized during the gold rush era. So under the same vein, if somebody, for example, if we were going to commission an art piece that was going to portray Chinese Americans during that era, we certainly would want to consult with an advocacy group or individuals that, whose family members lived through that era. Thank you to Councilmember Cece, who is our liaison to the Nisenan, for working through both the language of that, which was approved by the spokesperson for the tribe, the executive director of CHIRP, Shelley Covert. It was great, quick collaborative process, which is always nice. So with that, I would request that you approve both programs, give them back to the Public Arts Commission to implement and adopt the resolution.
Sweet.
Thank you. Public comment. Any public comment on this item? Not seeing any public comment, so we'll bring it back to the council. I think, let's see, we have representatives on that committee, which are, am I right? I'd like to hear from the committee representatives first.
Yeah, well, first, I just want to say, Lou, thank you for your piece. It's just, thank you for your work. It's really important work, and Shelley has told me she loves your mind, and she likes working with you, so.
Who doesn't?
So, yeah, I think my understanding is that your mind is quite a bit different than people that maybe are generally around her, and so it's a refreshing, nice addition.
It goes both ways.
Great.
Great.
I
But
love that.
But I think
love that.
I think probably a lot of people say that about Lou, is that.
In a good way.
In a great way, yeah, in the best of ways. Adam and I were on this committee, but this is really about the Public Arts Commission and Sean, city staff. This is exciting to see something from them. We kind of helped launch, and then this is their inaugural flight. I think the public pianos are just really fun. I've always seen it on social media and just thought, oh, that's so fun to just see a piano somewhere. And Sean, our buddy, gosh, I cannot believe I can't think of his name right now, that I told you that I love, that just played at the big guy with the tattoos on his face that I love.
Post Malone.
No. No, you know who I'm talking about. Jana, tell me, who is it? I saw this great Instagram post where he said that he was in a mall where somebody was playing his song.
Teddy Swims.
Teddy Swims, good Lord, thank you. Love Teddy Swims, so much fun. Thanks, Jana. He heard someone playing a piano in a mall, and it was his song. Oh, wow. And he just went up and he just started singing, and the person was totally. It was just a really cool moment, and I just how neat to be able to potentially have those experiences of spontaneous art as we're spending time. As Zach said, bringing the commons back to the people. I wish he knew some of the work that we've done over the last 4 years to do that very thing. And part of that is to expand Commercial Street and shut it down on the weekends. And I see that quite often as the commons. And so excited. Piano's going to be there. I love the acronym CHAMP. I think it's well named. I look forward to hearing Adam say CHAMP often. I feel like it goes in line with your buddy, CHAMP. Kind of it's a very Adam. It's a very Adam. What?
Are you all right?
I'm great.
Okay, just checking.
I don't know what you mean, Tiger.
Yes, you do.
Everything Daniela said. I didn't know any of the Teddy Swims part, but I assume he swims very well. Please, let's make sure the pianos are well tuned. We have no control over who's playing them, but our part is make sure that the instrument is tuned.
No kidding.
That makes all the difference. I think it's incredibly exciting, and I have so much faith in the Public Arts Commission. It's a great bunch of people.
It is.
So I got total faith that they're gonna nail this. Doug said, it won't be perfect, but I disagree. It'll be the first perfect thing on this earth.
Yeah, art's not the grandchild I have.
Except for his grandchild.
Yeah.
Possibly your kid?
No,
Seems all right.
my kid is definitely-
Had to check.
Wait till that baby's older.
He's a great kid, he's just not perfect.
Yeah,
Neither-
I think it's really exciting. I do like the
should he
acronym
be?
CHAMP. It's excellent. You should be very proud of yourself. Acronyming. It's tricky.
Thank you.
You nailed it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Cece, would you like to? Vice Mayor Klein, I'm sorry. Wow, I lost him all this time.
Are you okay, Gary?
No. I worked so hard on that. I'm so disappointed.
I would like to reflect a little of that praise because I simply followed the footsteps set down by Daniela, the liaison.
We got a love fest going on here. It's good.
Councilmember Cece, please turn on your microphone.
I'm so sorry.
Dean.
I will say that again.
Hi.
Hello.
Is that illegal up it?
Do you want to repeat what you said?
The Wizard of Oz has spoken. I would like to reiterate that I was simply following in the footsteps of Daniela in helping represent the Nisenan to the council and vice versa, and to congratulate Shelley on bringing the issue forward and for working collaboratively to come up with this wording for this resolution.
Thank you, Councilmember.
A great job all around. Love the Champ Gallery. I love that the people being selected are going to be from the local area. That's very important. I love that because you could have artists coming in from wherever. One of the things about the tuning with the heat, we're going to be tuning a lot more.
Yeah.
Or playing a lot of jazz.
Okay.
We're playing a lot of,
Detune for, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, great. No, this is really good. Congratulations, Joe. This is everything we could want from the Art Commission. They're doing this. My concern would be it rained last week. So pianos do not like moisture either. So I just we were able to protect them in a short-term notice if we need to. It's really a drop-off or something. But that's just my concern, having once owned a piano, and they do not like climate changes. They don't like being moved, all that stuff. But I've also been in places where I was walking along with a guy I'd done a lot of work with, and we walked by a painted piano, and he sat down, and I had no idea. He just started knocking out ragtime, and I'm just like going,
You think you know somebody.
yeah, you think you know somebody. But I've also been in the airport where somebody sat down, Rhapsody in Blue just came out. It was just fantastic, considering we're at the United Airlines terminal in particular. So, no, I'm all for this and the Champ Gallery, and this is all good. So, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cece?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor, I know, Vice Mayor Klein
Yes.
and Mayor Peterson.
Yes,
Motion
the neural
carries 5-0.
pathways are being reformed even as we speak, yes.
Neuroplasticity.
Thank you all. Every year. So that's wonderful. Okay, so item 9, consideration of a letter of intent for the donation of land from Chris Anderson, owner of the Nevada City Tech Center, DBA, the Bodie Hive Collective, for the new Nevada City Skate Park project. Sean, you're on.
Thank you. Last year, the city received an award of a Prop 64 grant, our second award, called, we refer to as Cohort 3 of the grant. The award originally included a turf field at Seven Hills Middle School that would become a public park after school hours. After an offer of donation of land at the Tech Center for a skate park, on November 8th of last year, you approved the submission of a grant modification aligned with the school district and other concerns about the potential challenges of the turf field itself. That grant modification allows us to pursue both a rehab of the Seven Hills field using grass, real grass, and the skate park itself using grant funds. At our last meeting, you awarded phase 1 of that field conversion. The construction of that will start next week. We had a meeting today with the contractor and our staff and the schools. Thank you, Brian McAllister, watching at home, for leading that effort. The action tonight is for you to accept this letter of intent, which is in the packet from Chris Anderson. It's a non-binding letter on his behalf to donate the land to the city and transfer it to us in a way that has yet to be selected. So essentially, the action is for you to accept the letter of intent and direct me to negotiate the disposition of the land. Gabby brought up a picture. What is in the packet is essentially what would amount to a legal description. It shows the lot lines and topography and things like that. Are generally not that helpful to anybody that's not a land surveyor. So what you're seeing on the screen is the black rectangle in the upper left-hand corner with the blue pool-looking kidney bean in it. The black rectangle would be the total perimeter of the land to be donated. Includes half of the drive lane there and all the parking spots that are there. So we have pre-built parking spots and lighting for the park. The blue essentially represents what the size of the skating surface area would be. That's about the same size as what you would see at Condon Park in Grass Valley, but the total size of the skate park area, including the bathroom, snack shack, fencing, lighting, sound/graffiti wall, etc., would be larger than what you see in Condon Park. Its orientation to the left is are the two large buildings of the Tech Center. It's immediately the building below it is the Holt Ballet company, currently also part of the tech center property. If you were to, I know that the newspaper said something about the skate park being accessible from Reward Street. It will not be accessible from Reward Street, only from Providence Mine Road.
Can you show us where Reward Street is on the map?
Reward Street is, I'll get up and point to it.
Right.
So that's Reward Street coming from Zion. And so at the end of Reward Street where it hangs a hard right, that's the St. Canice Center there. And the dotted black line is a trail, a dirt path that does lead along to the tech center, but that is fenced and not accessible at that point. As a matter of reference, it's more than 1,000 feet from the St. Canice parking lot to the skate park. It's less than 1,000 feet from St. Canice to Zion Street, and it's about 500 feet from St. Canice to the field for Seven Hills Middle School. So, you know, it just in relative sizes. So that's where it would go. That the actual specific means of transfer of the land, is, like I said, is yet to be determined, but essentially it could be a recreation easement. It could be a parcelization and transfer to us directly. It could also be a land lease. That's unlikely to be the best option, but we'll work with with Chris Anderson, who's donating the land, to see what's best for both parties. And then nothing's been decided yet on the next steps, the design. We intend to use, after having heard from the committee on this, a design build process. It streamlines our process, it speeds it up, it delivers the skate park about a year sooner than if we went through our conventional processes. It also has the added benefit of we'll know the price right up front as opposed to designing something that we can't afford. So that process will come back to the council. You'll approve the release of the bid documents. You'll approve the award of that. Part of the work of that team will be to work with the city on engagement with the skaters, essentially on how they'll use the park, the best amenities, the phasing of it and the like, but also with the community at large, because there might be people that have absolutely no interest in ever skating there, but have concerns about noise or lights or, you know, where it is in proximity to the creek or to the tribute trail or, you know, any number of things. And so engagement of anybody that has interest in it for any reason will be part of the process moving forward. This tonight doesn't convey the land in any way, but it's the first step, because until we have this box on paper saying that this might be our land, and you direct me to negotiate for that, we can't do any kind of design work. So the the action before you is just to accept that letter and provide me that direction, and certainly take any other direction you have on the topic. And that's all I have on this item.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Fleming first, because we looked at this in our committee meeting.
Thank you. Public comment, we're.
Oh, I'm sorry, public comment? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Scott Wayland. Is it on? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm a mechanical engineer and I'm in construction, and I just bought roller skates. So I have a couple of thoughts about this, because I've spoken to some of the people that are advocates in skates here, and my thought are twofold. One, I do design build, and my thought is that it might be better to do it the conventional way, because it would be good to get input. And if you go design build, you're not going to have a public comment period, if you will, and there might be stakeholders. And the other thought that I have is make it technical and make it fun for the skaters, but also make it safe for the 56-year-old guys that want to get on their skates again. So like if there can be a technical section and also something that's flat, that might be, because there might be, like, there's a thing that's going on down in Oakland where they're trying, in Memorial Park in West Oakland, they're trying to establish like an outdoor rink. And that's not a technical skate park, but it's for roller skating. And so, yeah, the space might look too small, but I encourage you to go the plan spec path so we can get it through planning and do it right. Thanks. I look
Thank you.
forward to helping you guys with other things in the future.
I
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so Scott, so just so you know, there is a roller skating ring inside one of the buildings at the tech center. Have you- Oh, yeah, yeah, you got to come check it out at some point. It's just there. There's nobody using it, but it's there. For events, it'll be open up. Chris Anderson wanted to be here today to convey this, letter officially, but he couldn't make it today, so he'd asked me to just send his apologies to the council and the mayor. One of the things I would just want to talk about firsthand, because we did get some public comment about this, and we've been trying to keep the neighborhood informed, and apparently we didn't inform everybody, and so there was one nice gentleman who reached out about some of his concerns. He wasn't aware that we had moved the skate park location from its original spot to further away from Reward Street, and that we were going to take steps to make sure that the skaters and anybody who wants to come and watch these events don't use Reward Street, and they will have to use Providence Mine Road. We're going to take steps, whatever we can, to, mitigate that problem with the skaters. There's also a way to get into the tech center off of Brock Street that will be used. It could be used by pedestrians and bikes, but not by cars normally. So that was one thing too. And, I think that one of our goals should be moving forward is just to make sure we have, the names and numbers of all the people on Reward Street so we can let them know about the next meeting when this process all starts. I did have a chance to go back and forth with one of the gentlemen who commented. We're going to meet there, and I'm going to show him the space and where it is in proximity to his house and all that. The tech center has been, or the Bodie Hive has been really good about notifying the people on Reward Street about events and, talking to them about any noise concerns that they have. So they've all gotten letters from, this group too, but I just want to make sure that we get them in the mix for the skate park progress. I think it's really exciting. I appreciate your concern about public comment, but I think we're going to have a lot of opportunities for the public to comment. I think the idea that we can get this done faster, probably a little better, maybe a little cheaper with design build might be the way to go, but we'll certainly have that discussion as we move forward. That's really all I have. The committee, Gary and I's committee, what's the name of our committee?
I'm not sure anymore.
Community Services.
Oh,
Community Service
I'll
Committee.
try to remember that.
We had a
We just
meeting-
consolidated, so we have new names.
It's CHAMP.
The CHAMP committee. We did have a good meeting where we discussed a lot of the details and the process moving forward. I got to thank Sean for his great stewardship of this project, and with his help, we're going to get this thing built within the next couple of years.
Okay, great. Thank you, Doug. Other comments?
No, I'm glad, if I may.
Yeah, please.
I am glad to hear from both Sean and reaffirmation from Doug that, this is a process. There will be opportunities for the neighbors to weigh in and be part of the process, as well as skaters and all the sorts. So I'm happy. I'm happy that you reached out to Jim and we're hearing his concerns, and excited to move forward on this. Thank you, Chris Anderson, for the generous donation. It's such a gift.
It is really nice. And one thing we should reiterate is the sound wall. There is going to be a graffiti wall that's going to act as somewhat of a sound barrier for that. But one of the things I want to note about the sound, they did noise studies on that street for possible outdoor events at the Bodie Hive, and the noise from Zion Street was actually louder than the noise from anything coming in from the tech center. So anyway, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, council, for your support on this wonderful project.
Okay, we're still moving. You were about to say something.
Anyone who wants to give us land, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Be careful.
Yeah.
As long as we can maintain.
You know, exactly, because we love that we got Sugarloaf and we love that we got Hirschman's Pond, but yeah. And to your point about the design build, before we got to that point, we do an enormous amount of public outreach. And we're after the design build because of working with skate park builders, that's the way they tend to work. But all kinds of public comment will come first. We're big on that. We don't try and dodge that at all. But thank you for your comments, and I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead. Since nobody else is here.
On acoustic sound walls, be careful because unless they have dampening on them, they don't attenuate. They just make it bounce.
They just
so the
reflect it.
person next to them is okay, but the one further, it doesn't do anything.
We're about to get into the woods.
You hope. Yes, we hope. Okay. But it was a great meeting, and thank you, Chris. It was obvious from the letters that some folks from the Reward Street did not know that the location had been moved. I did ask for the graphic, close to what I asked for, but 1,200. It was 1,200 feet from the nearest house to the skate park, right? Is that right? 1,200 feet. So you're over a quarter mile. So that's a significant distance. I understand people's concerns, and I'm not trying to diminish them.
No, but thank you for that contextualization of the distance.
I couldn't get it because I couldn't. I'm looking at Reward Street on my maps and on Google Earth, but I couldn't quite place the skate park from the plot map. In the thing. So that was very helpful. So thank you for that, Sean.
You know, on Reward Street, there's also other issues with the bike park and potentially issues with the new ball field too that have been raised as well.
No, there was a number of issues raised. So I'm looking for, let's see, we are looking for a motion and a second. No, that's to adjourn. Wait a minute. Okay, so I need a motion to accept the letter of intent and to direct staff to negotiate the disposition of.
I move that we accept Chris Anderson's letter of intent and direct staff to negotiate the further acquisition of this parcel.
I second.
Thank you.
All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cece?
Yes.
Councilmember Fleming?
Hell yeah.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Klein?
Yes.
Mayor Peterson?
Champ, yes. All right, very good. All right, reports and future agenda items, and we'll start, as always, with our esteemed city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The September-October newsletter will be released on our website this Friday, and it's being mailed out to all of our residents this week. So when you get it, please read it or check it out. It looks better online because it's color and you can zoom in and you can click the links. And but if you're like me and you like paper, then you can read it on paper as well. Just recycle it. We're growing as a city as far as staffing goes. In the coming month, you're going to see some new faces, a new assistant city manager, a new community development technician supporting both our planning and our engineering departments, and 3 wildfire fuels reduction personnel, which are all funded by Measure C to reduce fuel load and make Nevada City safer from wildfire. So thank you to the community for supporting Measure C and for letting us get those folks out there and reduce that fuel load. If you didn't know, we have a green waste bin in Pioneer Park in the lower parking lot off of Max Solero. We've been getting Waste Management to take away between 1 and 2 tons of green waste a week from that facility. So that is all fuel that is no longer on the ground in our community. And I really do appreciate the community's attention to detail there, because the concern is always that people would put garbage in that. And then we might not be able to do it anymore. And people have been very good. Our OES staff, thank you, Evan and Camille, who go out there every day and check and make sure. But all the feedback we hear is very positive, and thankful that that you're making that available. And lastly, this Sunday, it'll be 3 years since my wife Vanessa and I, our 7th child, Valerian, passed away. Sorry to do this to you every year, but
No, that's important.
him being born is the real reason why I'm here. so that we could return home. Obviously didn't go as planned, but I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak his name at least once a year here on the dais. I really am proud of the work that the five of you have allowed this team to do over the short time that I've been here. And I look forward to the amazing things this community and the council will have us do in the years to come. But thank you for letting me say his name was Valerian Jameson Grayson.
Well, we have Valerian to thank for you being here. So
Absolutely.
He's done some great work.
He has. And I really appreciate that.
And thank you for keeping it so human.
Yeah. Thank you for saying his name.
And you don't ever have to apologize.
No,
Like, please don't.
not to us.
Yeah.
You have
Tearing
more,
up.
or? are you-
That's all I have
you're not
this
gonna
evening,
break our
Mr.
hearts
Mayor.
anymore? So,
Yeah, you can make me cry further.
all right, who would like to go next? Look,
That's a tough act to follow.
well, you don't have to.
I don't have anything to say.
Anybody else, other comments?
I notice that the new website has launched. Is it official?
You were gone, huh?
It's still soft launched. Thank you for that, Councilmember Cece. So essentially, it has the same old content in a new shell, and we're working to get everything situated. When we do officially launch it, it's going to come along with a survey and a workshop opportunity for people the end users, to say, first of all, learn about it if they can't figure it out, and secondly, to say, hey, I'd love it to say this or have this, or there's not, for example, there's not a public arts page on there currently. I'm guessing if we don't have one by the time we launch it, somebody will say, you should really have one of those.
Right. Great.
And I noticed from recent court rulings that public websites for municipalities must be ADA compliant. I would just like to mention that my last job was making Skype available to the visually impaired. I led that design team and implementation team, so if you need any advice, just ask.
Who knew?
Just when you think you know somebody.
Lastly, the public art project on Argyle Street is done and looks terrific.
It does.
Fantastic. Thank you, Miriam.
Oh, yeah. I did see that. I saw her out there working diligently. Anyway, go ahead. Next.
Feel better, Dean. I'm thankful for our staff today and every day. That's all I got. Thank you.
Adam, did we mention that we had met? Our committee had met? Has that happened? Did that happen? Did we already talk about that?
We met. Are you asking if we mentioned that we met?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to place that in time.
Yeah, I know, it's hard sometimes.
I don't know. We
second
met.
Tuesday of the month.
Amazing. So nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you. Adam and I met. We will be meeting again September 9th. And that is a Monday evening in this room at 5:30. I guess that's the important part. Brief update on Gary and Mai's process with CBI, the Consensus Building Institute. In addition to, which you heard last time, that we had a report back with the stakeholders that had been interviewed, we have now had a report back with our fellow elected officials, both Supervisors Hall and Chair Bullock and Allison Lehman from the county, and then City Manager Tim Kieser and Tom Ivy from Grass Valley, and made them aware of the data that was collected. Gary and I have a list of deliverables that we're looking at engaging in before the end of this month. We'll be sending out correspondences to those who have participated in the process by the end of the week. And council members and broader community, please watch this space for further developments in the month of September.
Doug, did you have any?
No, I just want to remind people there's still microgrants available for home hardening. You know, you can get $100, you know, to do stuff to help make your house safer. I'm going to apply since nobody else is.
Oh, I did.
I know. Well, there you go.
It's on
Marley told me.
it's on my wife's list. So,
I gotta change my vent covers.
Yeah, I know,
They're
I've
too
gotta-
big, you know? So,
Okay, so I had the very distinct pleasure of conveying a proclamation of recognition for the 20-year anniversary of Friendship is Deep, the album now on vinyl by Golden Shoulders. And I was able to present it last week at the Communal Cafe at the album release party. And I just got to say, a lot of love in that room. I mean, these were people who've been doing this together for a long time, and it really showed, and it was really wonderful to be able to be there, and it realized that Friendship is Deep is not just an album title, it's a reality. So
that's beautiful.
I was pleased to represent us there. So
I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I was at Dry Diggins, but I would have been there. It was on my calendar.
I will eventually forgive you.
I know. It'll take time.
but it was great, and albums and other merch is still available, I'm sure.
I bet you.
Do the plug. We did have the public
Community Services Committee?
Community Services Committee, we'll get that. As I said, we consolidated some committees, and we did have a very good meeting, and we are, it's not just the skate park, we're looking at working with Don and others on improvements in the park. And I would say also, I'm not sure if the Fire Safety Advisory Committee is very excited about using the house in Pioneer Park as a demonstration project for home hardening.
Perfect.
So there's some real opportunities there. I think we're spending some quality time determining how to make the best use of our assets, which is really what we, need to do. Yes, we need new stuff, but you know what? We need to make the old stuff work for us. And so we're busy doing that.
One little addition. I'd like to thank Dawn, if she's still here. Oh,
She left.
For her leadership and doing all the park stuff. She's really, just a one-woman show, and she does a heck of a lot. And so
She's going to get her own whole house now.
I know she's got to move into the park. But yeah,
But
just wanted to acknowledge that.
So, but a lot of good stuff, and it's interesting. It's interesting being the mayor. People now stop me on the street and actually know I'm the mayor sometimes, which is kind of like, it is. But people have so many good things to say about the city, and people see it moving. People are experiencing positive change. They have a lot of respect for this council, and I think that's mostly pretty universal. But it's a pleasure to serve in this role and to serve with all of you, and I think we're doing a great job. So with that, I will look for.
Move that we adjourn this
and-
meeting.
I
second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Dean.
Thanks,
Feel
Dean.
better.
Dean, get some rest.
Figure that
damn it.
nuisance thing out while you're